Sit on your bed one day and ask yourself, what remarkably stupid things am I doing on a regular basis to absolutely screw up my life? And if you actually ask that question, but you have to want to know the answer, right? Because that's actually what asking the question means. It doesn't mean just mouthing the words. It means you have to decide that you want to know. You'll figure that's out so fast it'll make your hair curl. There's no better pathway to self-realization and the ennoblement of being than to posit the highest good that you can conceive of and commit yourself to it. And then you might also ask yourself, and this is definitely worth asking, is do you really have anything better to do? And if you don't, well, why would you do anything else? If you orient yourself properly and then pay attention to what you do every day, that works. And I actually think that that's in accordance with what we have come to understand about human perception, because what happens is that the world shifts itself around your aim. Because you're a creature that has an aim. You have to have an aim in order to do something. You're an aiming creature. You look at a point and you move towards it. It's built right into you. And so you have an aim. Well, let's say your aim is the highest possible aim. Well then, so that sets up the world around you. It organizes all of your perceptions. It organizes what you see and you don't see. It organizes your emotions and your motivations. So you organize yourself around that aim, and then what happens is the day manifests itself as a set of challenges and problems, and if you solve them properly, then you stay on the pathway towards that aim, and you can concentrate on the day, and so that way you get to have your cake and eat it too, because you can point into the distance, the far distance, and you can live in the day. And it seems to me that that makes every moment of the day supercharged with meaning. That's how, because if everything that you're doing every day is related to the highest possible aim that you can conceptualize, well, that's the very definition of the meaning that would sustain you in your life. Well, and then the issue is, well, back to Noah. Well, all hell's about to break loose and chaos is coming. It's like when that's happening in your life, you might want to be doing something that you regard as truly worthwhile. Because that's what will keep you afloat when everything is flooded. And you don't want to wait until the flood comes to start doing that, because if your ark's half built and you don't know how to captain it, the probability is very high that you'll drown. Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. That sounded pretty optimistic again. But again, I think it's a description of the structure of existential reality, and by which I mean, when I'm in my clinical practice and I observe, and this is also the case with my students, is, let's say people's lives aren't what they would like them to be. And so then you ask, why? Well, forget about tragedy and catastrophe, because that's self-evident, and we're not going to discuss that. Although the degree to which you bring about your own tragedy is always indeterminate. But I would never say that every terrible thing that is visited on a person is something they deserved. I think that that's a very dangerous presupposition, especially because everyone gets sick and everyone dies. But one of the main reasons that people don't get what they want is because they don't actually figure out what it is. And the probability that you're going to get what would be good for you, let's say, which would even be better than what you want, right? Because, you might be wrong about what you want easily. But maybe you could get what would really be good for you. Well, why don't you? Well, because you don't try. You don't think, okay, here's what I would like if I could have it. And I don't mean in a way that you manipulate the world to force it to deliver you goods for status or something like that. That isn't what I mean. I mean something like, imagine that you were taking care of yourself like you were someone you actually cared for. And then you thought, okay, I'm caring for this person. I would like things to go as well for them as possible. What would their life have to be like in order for that to be the case? Well, people don't do that. They don't sit down and think, all right, let's figure it out. You've got a life. It's hard, obviously. It's like 3 years from now, you can have what you need. You got to be careful about it. You can't have everything. You can have what would be good for you, but you have to figure out what it is, and then you have to aim at it. Well, my experience with people has been is, if they figure out what it is that would be good for them, and then they aim at it, then they get it. And it's strange because they don't it's a strange thing. It's not quite that simple because, you know, you may formulate an idea about what would be good for you, and then you take 10 steps towards that, and you find out that your formulation was a bit off, and so you have to reformulate your goal. You know, so you're kind of going like this as you move towards the goal. But a huge part of the reason that people fail is because they don't ever set up the criteria for success. And so, since success is a very narrow line and very unlikely, the probability that you're going to stumble on it randomly is 0. And so there's a proposition here, and the proposition is, if you actually want something, you can have it. Now the question then would be, well, what do you mean by actually want? And the answer is that you reorient your life in every possible way to make the probability that that will occur as certain as possible. And that's a sacrificial idea, right? It's like, you don't get everything. Obviously. But maybe you can have what you need. And maybe all you have to do to get it is ask. But the asking isn't a whim or today's wish. It's like, you have to be deadly serious about it. You have to think, okay, like, I'm taking stock of myself. And if I was going to live properly in the world, and I was going to set myself up such that being would justify itself in my estimation, and I don't mean as a harsh judge, exactly what is it that I would aim at? And so the issue is not so much the blindness of others, even though there's as much blindness among others as there is for you. But the issue here, the advice here, the description here is, you should be concerned about what's interfering with your own vision first. And you should leave other people the hell alone in relationship to that. And so if your mode of being in the world is, if you would just act better, things would improve for me, or if you identify the evil and the catastrophe as something that's outside, that someone else needs to fix, or that someone else is responsible for, then you're not going to fix that. And you're going to remain blind to the things that you're doing and not doing that make things not go well. And so it's just better to think, all right, I'm probably blind in many, many ways. And maybe there are some ways that I could rectify that, because it's highly probable that you're blind in all sorts of ways. I mean, in fact, it's virtually certain. And so it's just more useful to think, how is it that I'm wrong in this situation? I'll tell you something that I learned to do when I was arguing with my wife, which happened quite frequently, because when you actually communicate with people, you find out that there's many things that you don't agree on, and that's because you're actually different creatures. And so if you're actually going to have a truthful conversation, then you're going to find out that you don't see things the same way, and then you can either pretend that that's not the case and gloss over it, and then end up in a 30-year silent war.
All right, we're in the evening. We've got a solid 2 hours of sweet work weather and rain coming tomorrow, so we should probably do something about that. So we've got our board cut pretty much to the spec I'm happy with, square enough to be happy with. Don't pay attention to that line, it's lying to you. But yeah, it should work good. There's only 2 holes in it, which we can handle. It's not like we've ever had to patch some holes on this van. So I've got the meth tarp out. It's pretty methy. This thing went from like somewhat bad to completely unusable so fast. Yeah. You gotta be careful. Stuff from Walmart. I'm not saying don't buy stuff from Walmart or Amazon or any of that stuff. I'm not saying any of that. But if you do, just think about the quality. You know? I mean, like, if you're spending a certain amount of money, or if you're buying something that you want to last a long time, like this thing here, right? Don't touch. This thing here is something you take out like only once in a while. And when you do take it out, obviously you want it to work. But I mean, there's no way I've used this thing over 10 or 20 times max. Getting off topic though, I know. Rambling. Here we go. So we've got our hole somewhat cut. We're gonna go up to that pencil mark. We're gonna come over to this pencil mark, pretty far, and take some screws out. Clearly we did not have strength there, but you can kind of, I don't know about you, but there's these lines you can see. I mean, here, listen, I'll give you a listen here. You hear it get lighter there? It's right on that, like right there. So we're coming over to here. Should get it all. I mean, you know, it's not looking too hot. This, yeah. Down here, it's not too bad. So we decided to not go very far. I mean, I'm sure the entire bottom half has gotten water in it. This is not premium looking, but it's still there. It will dry up. It will get better. Well, it won't, put it this way, it won't get worse. But this kind of stuff we can't have here. Especially since this little room here. This is actually going to be like sealed off and closed in. It was going to be a room, and it was going to be a room for our dirty clothes. Granted, they're dirty and they're going to get washed, but it's also right behind the driver's seat and right under our bed. And this is kind of our living room slash, like, pop a table up and eat. You know, I mean, like, I'm not having it. And lucky for me, I cut out a big door, so I've got that big panel to put in here. But I'm gonna stop talking because we've got a fair amount of work to do, and the sun's going down. I don't know, I got like an hour and a half probably max, and I got to get this panel in and screwed on somehow, just kind of holding it there. I mean, that aluminum's gonna, it's a slot that the wood goes in. Sorry, this side, the wood pops into that aluminum and then they bolt it. But or screw it, I might screw it, but yeah, it's got to get attached. And tomorrow when I wake up, before I go to work, before the rain comes, I will seal it all up, and then the Mother Nature will test it for me. I'm also somewhat positive that that rust down there in the door, a lot of that probably came from there. We actually have a we've had a tiny little leak in that bedroom, which is why you see tons of sealant and coating around that corner. Because I couldn't figure out where the leak was coming from. But what I think happened was the window right there was installed improperly, and that gap you see at the top of that window right there, that gap let in a bunch of water. It soaked it up and over. So whenever the van, it only happened when the van was tipped a certain way, just tipped downhill like this, you know. It would suck it up. It would only have to suck it up just a little bit, and then it would ride right into that corner. But we'll be able to test that in the future. Didn't I say I was going to shut up? All right, let's get to work, people. It really sucks filming next to a road. Think about it if you ever start this YouTube stuff. But so this is not 100% cut out. My line's actually over there. I'm just kind of getting close because I don't know why, because I'm scared, and it's hard to mock this thing up perfectly. But I'm eventually going to cut out the rest of it up there and around there and down. But right now is a good time to show you what's left on the rotting. So this board, I knew was not going to be great. I wouldn't say the whole thing is junk. I would say that like from here over or even less, and then the bottom is probably looking like this. But even this isn't too bad. This is pretty gnarly. Definitely. Some of this is from the tar though. So the wood is still kind of bad down here. You can see it almost draws a line right on the wood. Like this is not bad. That's mold. So mold, or let's just call it mold. So, and it's definitely still rotted out down here, like all the way. I mean, some of this doesn't look too bad, but you know, it is. I plan to revisit this at some point for sure, but it's not a fall. I've got way too much to get done right now to do all of it right now. Not to mention, I would have to source these fiberglass encased wood panels and just cut a bigger section out and do a bigger section in the future. I mean, the entire bottom of here is probably all rotted to a point too, because the rot is, it kind of stops right about there, which makes you kind of wonder where it went. It went down there. I know it did. So, but the top don't look too bad. You can see where I cut the wood. I'm gonna try to get you to see it's pretty clean looking, pretty good, no water. It's kind of when you get down to this point where it's like, you know, it's fine. I'll stop water from getting to it and revisit it, like I said, later. This is kind of strange too. I'm gonna get up on the ladder to show you this. So don't pay attention to this, because this is just screwed to the wall and then to the bottom of here. But there is a wood panel right here, and that is the baseboard for like what we'd call our bedroom or something. And there's I think it's just some sealant for the outside or something. It's still sticky actually too, like really sticky. Yeah, I don't know, it's weird, but whatever. I think it is just to help these guys. I don't know, just a cushion, I guess. This is my, well, this is my closet right here, and this is like laundry room slash some other stuff room. There's a little room up there in the bedroom. Yeah, I just stopped to record all this, what it looks like, because at the end of the day, it's gonna be sealed up, and I'm gonna need to know what this all looked like. I guess I ran out of storage or something. I don't know. It says I got 21 minutes of recording, but something happened and you guys missed a little bit. Hopefully not too much, but I just had a final little trim to cut up. Yeah, I think is where you cut out. And here, let's look at it up close. This is gonna get sealed all the way around, and that's probably the worst gap. Nope, wait, I'm wrong. Move the ladder, not get stabbed in the foot by fiberglass. That's the worst gap. But nonetheless, that is going to all the way around. You know, it's a patch job. I'm not trying to make this thing look beautiful, so all the way around is going to get some metal, some sealant, some screws, what have you, and that window is not going to be leaking anymore. Not to mention, I wanted to get all the windows off this side anyway, so that when we're in the slow lane, we don't look like nothing. It's that part of that stealth stuff. But I didn't plan on this. That's gonna be it for me today. I gotta clean up tomorrow, which will happen in a blink for you. But tomorrow I'm gonna seal all that up. And honestly, I can't even promise that I'm gonna have time to record any of it. So this might be the end for us.